Can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
Yes, but your screen went blank.
My screen went blank. Okay. Well, we'll see if I come back. Good morning. I'd like to call to order this morning's meeting of the ISD 191 Burnsville-Eagan-Savage School Board. The date is June 23rd and the time is 8 a.m.
Abigail, you're back now, but we couldn't hear anything after 8 a.m.
After 8 a.m. Okay. Welcome, everyone. Director Schatz, would you please lead us in the pledge?
Under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We will start this morning. And if suddenly I spot out, guys, just like give me a thumbs down, please. We'll start by approving this morning's agenda. I will take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Director Schatz. Second?
Second.
Seconded by Director Hume. Any discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Kenny, please call the roll.
Alt,
Aye.
Chester,
Aye.
Holwiger,
Aye.
Hume,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Schatz.
Aye.
And the agenda is approved. Thank you. We'll start with the consent agenda. Although board action is required, it is generally unnecessary to hold a discussion on these items. In the event a board member wishes to discuss an item, that item will be moved for separate consideration. Anything to separate? I will take a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Director Miller, second.
Second.
Seconded by Director Chester. Ms. Kenny, please call the roll.
Chester,
Aye.
Holwiger,
Aye.
Hume,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Schatz,
Aye.
Alt.
Aye. And the motion carries. Our first item of business is that we're being asked to approve the revisions and readopt the unchanged language in the Association of Clerical Employees Master Agreement for 2019 through 2021. Welcome, Stacy Sovine, Executive Director of Human Resources.
Morning, Chair Alt, Dr. Battle, members of the board. Thank you for providing this opportunity to ratify the contract with our last bargaining unit for this 2019-2021 cycle. It is very helpful for the purposes of completing retro within this fiscal year, which we're trying to do to make it easier for our partners in finance, as well as closing the books and moving on towards prepping for our audit. We met with the clerical unit 3 times. We had just a number of language items, mostly cleanup types of things. some clarification, adding the number of days to the month identifiers, just so that it was really clear. We did come to an agreement with our long-term disability language, so that all of our units have agreed to moving off of 30-day qualifying period for our LTD language, which allows us now to explore other options that may be more financially feasible for us as a district within our planning. Whether we move off of that or not really depends on the type of bids, but we now at least have the leverage and the flexibility to go out and try to secure a better deal all the way around. Address some leave language. There's steps both years. We're doing a 1-in-1 increase on the salary schedule. We also did increase the 403B contribution. It's been over a decade since the last time it was increased by about $200. 403 contribution, quite frankly, is the best way to spend the money. There's no additional liability to the district for FICA or TRA or PERA cost. It's an elective for the members to participate or not to participate. There generally isn't 100% participation. So for the dollars, it's the best bang for the buck with that. We're looking at an increase over 2 years of just under $160,000 with an MSBA 2-year package of 3.16%. So with that, read the recommendation for you. Okay. I make the recommendation that the Board of Education approve the proposed revisions and readopt the unchanged language in the 2019-2021 Master Agreement with the Association of Clerical Employees.
Thank you. I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Director Schatz, second.
Second.
Seconded by Director Chester. Any discussion or questions? Seeing none, Ms. Kenny, will you please call the roll?
Hallwigger,
Aye.
Hume,
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Schatz,
Aye.
Alt,
Aye,
Chester.
Aye.
and the motion carries. Next, we are being asked to adopt a resolution regarding board control of extracurricular activities. Welcome, Lisa Ryder, Executive Director of Business Services.
Good morning, Chair Alt, Superintendent Battle, and members of the board. Our school district has always handled our student activity accounts as being not under board control. However, GASB 84 came around and it calls for all student activity accounts, also known as extracurricular activities, to be controlled under the board. And with that, that means it's under the general fund. As this was being published and the implementation date was determined to be the 1920 school year, we understood that to be the case. However, the guidance as to how exactly that implementation was to take place was a little slow getting out to districts at the beginning of the school year. And then as a result of COVID, it actually was extended for another year. However, in the meantime, our state legislature passed a law. And as a result of the law, the state statute, that is the reason for this resolution before you today. This is to formally acknowledge that our student activity funds will be under board control for the 1920 school year. And I appreciate you taking this under consideration at this date. The resolution is actually just aligning us with that state statute, and the recommendation before you today reads that the Board of Education adopts the resolution regarding board control of extracurricular activities.
Thank you, Lisa. I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Director Hume, second.
Second.
Seconded by Director Schatz. Any questions or comments?
Yes.
Director Miller.
Gerald. Lisa, just for clarification, what encompasses extracurricular activities, and is there anything that doesn't encompass that? So I'm thinking specifically of PTOs and those types of sub-organizations?
Right. Thank you for the question. PTOs and other organizations that support our school district but have their own tax identification number and their own bylaws and such, they stand by themselves. I'm referring to our student activity accounts that in the past you have had a separate special audit folder report that was issued, and it showed all the student activities, for example, at the Burnsville High School, at our middle schools, and then our elementaries in the last, I don't know, I think 3 or 4 years has had like one student activity account so that they could manage things for their entire school. So those types of things are what I'm referring to when I talk about student activity accounts and extracurricular activities. All boosters and PTOs, they are outside of that framework. But our student activity accounts have always fallen under our tax ID number. It's just that their activities were not necessarily considered under board control. The board had never approved or made a resolution to bring it under board control. And now with GASB 84, it requires that all student activities that are under our tax ID now need to be shown in the general fund and under board control.
Thank you. Not to get too far in the weeds, but because I believe in my past experience with the PTO, they didn't, Warren Harry Bishop had only recently or was in the process of getting a tax ID. So I don't know, I'm not sure every organization has to have a tax ID. Correct me if that's wrong. And so I would assume, let's say a group at the high school decides to form a specific student club or something, they would intuitively fall under this jurisdiction. But a group of parents, they come together for 1 year to raise money for some purpose, it would not, even if they didn't have a tax ID. I mean, are we defining the boundary lines so that we don't run afoul of that in the future at some point? Someone misunderstanding the circumstances?
So student activity accounts require that we have an advisor that is assigned to that student account and that group. And so they it's only student activity, it's only students that are a part of that group. It's not parents, it's not outside entities. And so that is what defines that student activity account in that group itself. So it would need to be a student club, a student group. When you start having groups that are parents, and it is true, you're right, it's to get a tax ID number simply allows for them to have that identified as an entity versus an individual. And they can have bank accounts under that ID. Whether or not it is a tax identification number that is classified as a nonprofit or not, then is a tax matter and does possibly impair their fundraising activity. But aside from that, that's really how that works. But they are, if they're not students and they don't have an advisor recognizing that club, then they are not necessarily a student activity that we'd be recognizing under the general fund either moving forward.
Thank you.
Yes.
Good question. Thank you. Any other questions, board members? Seeing none. Ms. Kenny, will you please call the roll?
Hume,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Schatz,
Aye.
Alt,
Aye.
Chester,
Aye.
Hollwigger.
Aye.
And the motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
With that, this was short and sweet and to the point for the morning. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. And I declare us adjourned. Have a lovely day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.